This is an important announcement. We are currently under attack by a wannabe authoritarian who is currently snatching people off the streets. He's defying court orders. He's sending people to gulags down in El Salvador. And if you want to be on the right side of history, make sure to visit nokings.org and join in on the No Kings protest this Saturday, June 14th. Let's come together and show this administration that this is not what America is all about. I hope to see you guys there. It is time for the American people to wake up. We are no longer talking about hypothetical scenarios about what Donald Trump could do. We are talking about what Donald Trump is currently doing. Now, as most of you probably know by now, late last week, peaceful protests started in Los Angeles due to the ICE raids that were going on there. And even though Gavin Newsom came out and said everything was fine, everything's under control, even though even the LA police came out and said we don't need any help, everybody can still access the services that they need, well, Donald Trump decided he was going to go ahead and force the issue anyway. And he illegally invoked, yet again, another law to send in the National Guard. We are dealing with a madman. He is a lunatic trying an authoritarian takeover of the United States, and he is now waging war against these blue cities that can stand in his way. That is what is going on here. And I want to go ahead and take a look at some of the things that he had to say on Monday, because maybe it'll give us some insight into how he is thinking about this whole entire mess that he has created. Let's go ahead and start off with this clip, where he is now calling for the arrest of California Governor Gavin Newsom. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
Gavin Newsom he's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job. Look. I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. It's about 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget.
Yeah, so I guess if you're incompetent, that is now an arrestable offense, according to Donald Trump. Now, Gavin Newsom doesn't operate the way that Donald Trump wants him to operate, so of course Tom Homan should step up and he should arrest him. I mean, we are dealing with a lunatic here, guys. This is not normal in the United States. Just because you don't like the way a governor is, handling or running their state does not give you the reason to just go on the attack. That is not how the United States of America is supposed to work. But because Donald Trump is trying this authoritarian power grab, he is now targeting his political enemies. And they know that Gavin Newsom is more popular, he's more handsome, he's more forceful in front of the camera. And so Donald Trump, the weak and feckless man that he is, he views Gavin Newsom as a threat to him. It is absolutely insane that we have a president of the United States calling for the arrest of a Democratic governor under this false pretense that Donald Trump is trying to create about this wide-scale violence. Let's go to move on to this clip, where he's trying to say that the police in LA, well, they were just afraid to do their jobs.
We've had some exciting days in the last week, I would say, mostly good. Some of the things you're reading about in Los Angeles, thank goodness we sent out some wonderful National Guard. They've really helped, and a lot of problems they were having out there. They were afraid to do anything, and we sent out the troops, and they've done a fantastic job. So I want to thank them very much.
So again, Donald Trump is just lying to you here. Like I said, peaceful protests started on Friday morning / Friday afternoon. They kind of elevated throughout the weekend, and by Saturday, Donald Trump decided that he was going to call in the National Guard, invoking a law illegally, which says that you need the governor's consent, or at the governor's discretion will the National Guard be called in. Donald Trump just bypassed Gavin Newsom altogether and sent them in anyway, even though the police agencies themselves said, we've got everything under control. You are just going to escalate the situation if you send in National Guard troops. But that is what he did. This is what he wanted. He wanted to cause chaos. This is a political theater for Donald Trump to make himself look like a big, bad, tough guy. Like he's handling the crazy lunatics in LA. This is what he wanted. He invoked violence to give himself a good image or whatever. Let's go to move on to this clip where he's asked about, well, you didn't invoke the Insurrection Act in 2020. You kind of acted a little bit different there. What changed?
Mr. President, in 2020, when you were talking about unrest in American cities, you said, quote, "We have to go by the laws. We can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor." What changed now? Why is this situation different to not consult with Governor Newsom about this?
Well, the biggest change from that statement is we have an incompetent governor. So I talked about governors, but I didn't talk about he's an incompetent governor. Look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states. And if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order. You had a disaster happening. And they now admit it was a disaster. I watched.
So here's Donald Trump coming out and just saying, well, because Gavin Newsom is incompetent in my mind, well, I just don't have to follow the law anymore. Because as many of you guys probably remember, back in 2020 during the BLM protests, Donald Trump didn't call in the National Guard because he had more reasonable people around him that understood how our system is supposed to work. Now that Donald Trump has surrounded himself with a whole bunch of sycophants who have no fidelity to the Constitution or to the law, I mean, he just, like I said, leapfrogged right over Gavin Newsom. And he's using a statute that says you need to coordinate with the governor of the state before you go ahead and deploy the National Guard. So he's breaking the law, just like he continues to do over and over and over again in his second term. And now we've got troops on the street in California that are only making matters worse. Like I said, 99.99% of protests have been peaceful. You've had a little, few individuals, opportunistic assholes who have, carried out minor violence. But mostly everything has been peaceful. Mostly everything was under control, and then Donald Trump set in the troops, and now we are seeing things escalate and escalate and escalate. This is Donald Trump's doing. He's then asked, well, what crime did Gavin Newsom commit if you're saying that he should be arrested?
And what crime has he committed that would warrant his arrest? What crime has Governor Newsom committed?
A crime has he committed?
Yeah, to warrant his arrest, as you had
I think his
suggested earlier.
primary crime is running for governor because he's done such a bad job. What he's done to that state is like what Biden did to this country. And that's pretty bad. It's the wrong philosophy. Hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants, many of them prisoners. They're taking up your health care. They're taking up your space in schools. They're taking up your hospital. And in many cases, they're criminals. And
so according to Donald Trump, Gavin Newsom, even running for governor, well, that was the crime he committed. He's incompetent. He's not running the state like I think the state should be run. And therefore, that is an arrestable offense. That is what Donald Trump just said. I mean, what are we doing here, guys? We have a president of the United States going after political opponents just because he thinks they're incompetent and shouldn't have run for governor. What are we doing? When is MAGA going to wake up and realize Donald Trump for what he is? He is a fascist fuck who is trying an authoritarian power grab of the United States. He is waging war against the citizens of LA. That is what we are currently seeing. He then goes on to say that, well, I don't know if it's an insurrection quite yet.
Briefly, you had said yesterday when asked by reporters that it was not an insurrection taking place, but then on True Social a bit later, you had said they were insurrectionists. After what you've seen now...
You're talking about in L.A.?
Yes, sir, in L.A.
I wouldn't call it quite an insurrection, but it could have led to an insurrection. I mean, that was a lot of harm that was going on last night. I watched it very closely, and it was amazing that the job that the National Guard did. And by the way, the police were working very hard also. But, the police are given instructions to be politically correct. I said, no, you don't have to be politically correct. You have to do the job.
What the fuck is he even talking about? Police are instructed to be politically correct. And I said, you know what? You don't need to be politically correct. You just need to do the job. You just need to go into LA and you need to start cracking skulls. That is what we expect from the National Guard when Donald Trump calls you in. What we are seeing here is not normal. It should not be tolerated in the United States. This is an impeachable offense where you have a president of the United States who is going to war against citizens that he deems unworthy. He's trying to make up this picture in his mind saying that the violence is out of control. Nobody can, even walk the streets because the violence is just terrible, terrible, terrible. But it's all just a lie. This is what happens when you have a president who sits in front of Fox News 23 hours a day. Because what do they play? They play the tiny bits of violence over and over and over again on a loop. I've sat there, I've watched it, it is disgusting. And that is what Donald Trump is basing his decisions on. Fox News replays of sporadic violence throughout mostly peaceful protests in LA. That is what we are currently seeing. He then basically admits that maybe he should control California.
Are you planning to deploy Marines in California to address the situation in Los Angeles? Are you going to deploy Marines in California?
We'll see what happens. I mean, I think we have it very well under control. I think it would have been a very bad situation. It was heading in the wrong direction. It's now heading in the right direction. And we hope to have the support of Gavin, because Gavin's the big beneficiary as we straighten out his problems. I mean, his state is a mess. And I'd like to get somebody involved in the rail because, look, personally, it should have never been built because you can fly there for $2. And what are you doing? They're doing that. You could drive. You could do lots of different things,
So we have a president of the United States who has sent the National Guard. Now he has sent the Marines to the streets of California. And now he's opining about getting into California and just running their system the way that he wants it run. Well, that light rail, it's out of control. I need to get somebody in there and I need to take care of that. I need to get over here and I need to call in the National Guard because I need to take care of that. This is what authoritarians do. They want to reach their grimy little fingers into every aspect of everybody's lives. And this is what Donald Trump is trying to do. And he has done this all based on a false pretense that there is wide-scale violence going on in LA. As I will continue to repeat, most of the protests that started on Friday, even going into Saturday, were 99.99% peaceful. You had a couple idiots who engaged in violence that Fox likes to play on reruns, and that is what Donald Trump is basing his decision on. He calls up the National Guard on Saturday evening, and then he later that night says, "Oh, you guys have done such a good job. Things have calmed down. Look at what a good job I did." Except the only problem with that was that the National Guard hadn't even made it to LA, which even just proves the point that the National Guard was not needed. But now that they are there, we are seeing that the rage and the just the pushback against this authoritarian regime is only escalating, which is exactly what we said would happen. This is what Donald Trump wanted. So again, I'm going to say, if you're out there in LA, if you are standing up against this fascist regime, make sure to be peaceful. Don't give these assholes a reason to inflict violence against you. And it only makes our side look bad, right? If we're standing there peaceful, in a peaceful protest, standing in a line, and then you've got police marching towards you and starts cracking skulls, as shitty as that may be, that is the type of imagery that wins hearts and minds. Be peaceful, people. I know this is a shitty scenario that we are currently dealing with, and I'm afraid that it's only going to get worse. And as we see here, Donald Trump just has pretty much no comprehension as to what is actually going on in the ground in California. He deployed the active duty Marines, for goodness sakes. We are in unprecedented territory. Donald Trump has created another fantasy in his mind to continue to cosplay in this authoritarian takeover. So I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that just launders this authoritarian nonsense for Donald Trump every single day. So if you do like what I do here, please remember to smash that subscribe button. It is free. And if you guys want to see how these protests got started and how things kind of escalated over the last few days, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. It's kind of a good baseline as to where all this began. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.